Before I begin, I just want to ask you something. What would you do if someone much younger than you, someone you've known since they were practically a kid, showed up one evening with a gift and said something that completely shook the ground beneath your feet? This happened to me. I never saw it coming. And yet, looking back, maybe the signs were always there. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Are you tuning in from sunny California, a small town in Texas, or maybe somewhere up north where the summer heat still clings to the windows? I want to hear from you. So, here's what happened. It was one of those quiet early summer evenings when the sky still held on to that orange hue long past dinner. The breeze slipped through the window, and I had just poured myself a glass of white wine. Nothing fancy, just something light to end the day. I was still in my day clothes, loose blouse, comfortable jeans, barefoot on the kitchen tile, scrolling through a cookbook I wasn't really planning to use. Then I heard the knock. 3 firm taps. I wasn't expecting anyone. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked to the door, not even bothering to fix my hair or check the mirror. When I opened it, there he stood. Mark, 26 years old, my best friend Sharon's son. He was holding something behind his back and grinning like a boy who had a secret. I hadn't seen him in a few weeks, not since Sharon's birthday. Back then, he gave me a long hug, longer than usual, come to think of it, and told me I looked elegant. I remember laughing it off, but something in the way he said it had lingered. "Evening, Linda," he said, his voice deeper now, more grown up than I remembered. "I brought you something." Before I could ask why, he pulled out a small, neatly wrapped box. I blinked. "For me?" He nodded. "It's nothing big. Just saw it and thought of you." I stepped aside. "Come in then. You can't just stand there with mystery presents and expect me not to be curious." He walked in, his shoulders brushing slightly against mine as he passed. That subtle, accidental contact sent an unexpected jolt up my spine. I shook it off. Mark set the box down on the kitchen counter, glanced around, and smiled. "Still smells like cinnamon in here. You baking again?" "Not today. Just lit one of those scented candles. Can I get you something to drink?" "Sure. Water's fine." As I poured him a glass, he stood silently behind me. I could feel the warmth of his presence at my back. It was oddly quiet for a moment. No radio, no ticking clock, just the sound of the water filling the glass and the soft creak of the floor beneath his shoes. I handed it to him and gestured to the gift. "So, what is it?" "Open it," he said, eyes fixed on mine. I slowly pulled at the silver ribbon, peeled back the paper, and lifted the lid. Inside was a delicate necklace, simple, tasteful, with a small amber stone. "It reminded me of you," he said, his voice low, warm, natural, strong. I couldn't help but laugh lightly. "Mark, that's sweet. But this is too much." "It's not," he said, taking a sip of water. "I've wanted to give you something for a while, just didn't know how." I stared at him. His eyes were serious. There was something in them I hadn't seen before, or maybe hadn't let myself see. He looked at me the way a man looks at a woman. And that's when he said it. "I've had feelings for you, Linda. For a long time." My breath caught in my throat. This couldn't be happening. This was Mark. Sweet, respectful, baby-faced Mark, who I'd watched grow from an awkward teen into a charming young man. He must have seen the shock on my face, because he held up his hands. "I know it sounds crazy, but it's not a joke. I'm not messing around. You're beautiful, smart, and you listen. You make people feel seen. That's rare. I didn't know what to say. My hands felt cold, even though the room was warm. Mark, I started, unsure how to finish the sentence. You're young. I'm old enough to. Don't say your mother, he interrupted, gently but firmly. This has nothing to do with her. This is about how I feel about you. And then he did something I didn't expect. He reached out and gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingertips brushed my skin for only a second, but the sensation lingered. I felt alive, not just flattered, not just surprised. Seen. Desired. He took a step back. I'm not expecting anything. I just needed to say it. You deserve to know. The silence stretched between us, and in that stillness I realized I was smiling. Not out of awkwardness, not out of pity, out of something else. Because part of me, deep down, had wondered what it would feel like to be noticed again, not just for being polite or kind, but for being a woman. I looked at him, really looked, the way his shirt clung just enough to show his build, the quiet confidence in his stance, the softness in his eyes when they landed on me. Well, I finally said, voice a little steadier than I expected, you certainly know how to shake up a quiet evening. Mark chuckled. I'll leave you alone. Didn't mean to throw you off. He turned toward the door, and something in me panicked. Wait. He paused. Why don't you stay for tea? His smile returned, warmer now, almost relieved. I'd love that. As I turned to put the kettle on, I could feel him watching me. But this time, I didn't pretend not to notice. I busied myself at the stove, pouring water into the kettle with hands that weren't quite as steady as I wanted them to be. My mind was racing, and yet there was a strange calm settling over me too, a sense of curiosity I hadn't felt in years. Mark took a seat at the small kitchen table, just by the window where the last bit of sunlight painted his face in a soft amber hue, almost the same shade as the stone on the necklace he had just given me. That thought made me glance down at it again, my fingers brushing over its smooth surface as I debated whether or not to put it on. Do you like it? He asked gently, almost unsure now. I do, I said, then surprised even myself as I unclasped it and slowly draped it around my neck. It's lovely. Feels meaningful. His eyes followed the movement of my hands, and for a second the air thickened with something unspoken. Not uncomfortable, just charged. It had been so long since someone had looked at me like that, without rushing, without expectation. Just quiet admiration. We didn't speak again until I set the mugs down between us, one for him, chamomile for me. So, I said, easing into the chair across from him, you going to explain what inspired this sudden visit? Or was it really just a necklace and a confession? Mark laughed softly and leaned back, his hands wrapped around the mug. Honestly, I was nervous as hell. I almost didn't come. The gift was my excuse. But the real reason was just you. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't feel something. I sipped my tea to give myself a moment to think. You know how complicated this is, right? He nodded. Of course. You're older. You're friends with my mom. You probably think I'm impulsive or confused. A little, yeah, I admitted. And it's not because of your age, Mark. It's because I've known you since you were, 13? I used to bake cookies for you and your sister. And now I want to make dinner for you. He said it with a smile, but there was real emotion under it. I'm not some kid with a crush. I've dated. I've had relationships. But you're different. You've always been different. That made my heart stir in a way I hadn't expected. I'm not used to someone being so direct with me anymore, I said, quieter now. Most men my age are either divorced and bitter or married and lying about it. Mark's smile faded a little, but not in a bad way. It was like he understood. That's what I mean. You deserve more than that. You deserve to be seen. That word again. Seen. He reached across the table, not to take my hand, just to rest his fingers near mine. Not quite touching, but close enough to feel the warmth. Can I ask you something? I nodded. Have you ever felt something for me? Even just a little? My mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. That question hit deeper than I thought it would. Because the answer wasn't a simple yes or no. I've noticed you, I finally admitted. But I told myself it was just admiration. You've grown into a good man, Mark. A kind man. That's rare. Noticed me how? He asked, his voice softer now. I gave a quiet laugh, one that came with a bit of embarrassment. Let's just say, you have a way of being present. Like tonight. That calm confidence. It catches a woman off guard. He smiled again, this time with a mix of warmth and quiet pride. I'll take that as a yes. I didn't say yes. I said, smiling despite myself. You didn't say no either. We sat there in silence again, but it wasn't awkward. It was thoughtful. Comforting. He wasn't pushing. He wasn't trying to rush into anything. That made me trust him more than I expected. I still think you're a little crazy, I said finally. Crazy about you, he replied with a wink. That made me laugh, truly laugh. The kind of laugh I hadn't felt bubble up in a long time. You want to stay for a movie? I asked, shocking even myself. He looked surprised. I'd love to. I stood up and motioned for him to follow. We moved to the living room, dim but cozy, with soft lamps and thick throw blankets. I chose an old classic, something romantic but light, and we settled on the couch. Not too close, but not far apart either. I folded my legs beneath me and pulled a blanket over my lap. Mark stretched out a little, one arm casually draped behind the couch, not around me, but close enough that if I leaned just slightly, I'd be within reach. Halfway through the film, I realized I wasn't watching it at all. I was watching him. The way he smiled at certain scenes. How relaxed he looked in my home, like he belonged there. He turned to me during one of the quieter moments in the movie. You're really beautiful, Linda. The way he said it, it didn't feel like flattery. It felt like truth. I felt my cheeks warm. You've said that before. Because it's true. He hesitated, then slowly reached out and gently touched my hand where it rested on the blanket. This time, I didn't pull away. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for, he said. I just want to be near you, even if it's just this. I stared down at our hands. His thumb brushed over mine so tenderly, I had to remind myself to breathe. I'm still figuring out what this is, I whispered. But I don't want you to leave just yet. His fingers curled gently around mine. Then I won't, he said. And so we sat there in the glow of the television, hands entwined, something quiet and unexpected growing between us. Not rushed, not wild, just real. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was right where I was meant to be. The movie had ended, but neither of us moved. The room had grown darker, the screen now dim with the soft flicker of credits. Still, We stayed close, his hand still gently wrapped around mine, resting on my lap like it belonged there. It had been years since I'd shared my space like this. Decades, even, since someone looked at me not as a friend or a neighbor or a mother, but as a woman worth holding. I turned to him, and in the low light, I could see that same softness in his expression. He wasn't in a rush. He wasn't trying to impress me. He just wanted to be there. "You tired?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He shook his head slowly. "Not even a little?" "You've been up since early, haven't you?" He smiled. "I've had more energy since seeing you. Something about you just wakes me up." I rolled my eyes a little, but I couldn't help the smile that tugged at my lips. "You always this charming." "Only with people who matter." That made my chest tighten a bit. I didn't want to admit how much those little words affected me. I tried to shift the mood with a laugh. "Well, I should warn you. You're treading on dangerous ground here, saying the right things at the right time. It's risky." "I like risky," he said, tilting his head. "Especially when it feels right." That silence came again, the good kind. The kind that lets your thoughts rise to the surface and settle in your chest like warm air. His thumb was still tracing little circles along my hand. I hadn't even noticed he was doing it until I realized how much it soothed me. I leaned back into the couch a little more, and without thinking, my shoulder brushed his arm. I didn't move away. Neither did he. "You really caught me off guard tonight," I said. "I know," he said. "I didn't plan on all of this. I just couldn't hold it in any more. You said you've had feelings for a while. When did that start?" He breathed out, thoughtful. "Honestly, probably a couple of years ago. I'd visit with Mom, and you'd always be so gracious, so warm. You'd offer tea or cookies or ask about my job like it really mattered. I know that seems small, but not many people listen like that anymore. Not many people care like that." I looked down, embarrassed in a strange way. "That's just being polite." "No," he said softly. "That's being you." I swallowed the lump in my throat. I didn't realize how much I'd missed being seen, not just noticed for my appearance or my history, but truly seen for the way I existed in a room. Mark shifted slightly, angling toward me. "And I noticed how you'd light up when you laughed, or how your eyes got this faraway look when you were remembering something from the past. You have layers, Linda. I wanted to learn all of them." That stirred something deep in me, deeper than I was ready to admit. I gently pulled my hand away, not because I was upset, but because I needed to stand. I walked to the kitchen, pretending to tidy up the mugs, even though they were already clean. I needed space to think, to breathe. He followed me a moment later, quiet footsteps against the wood. "Did I say too much?" he asked gently. "No," I said, turning to him. "You didn't. I hesitated. I've spent years convincing myself that the chapter of feeling desired or noticed or even wanted was over, that it ended somewhere in my late 40s, and everything after was about comfort, routine, making peace with the silence. Mark stepped closer, not touching me yet, just listening, really listening. "But you come in here," I continued, "with this thoughtful little box and kind words and soft eyes, and suddenly I feel like a woman again. Not just someone's mother or neighbor or friend." I paused, letting that honesty hang in the air. "And it scares me." He reached out slowly, placing his hand lightly on my arm. "It doesn't have to. I'm not asking for everything. I'm just asking to be part of this moment." His hand slid down, fingers lacing gently with mine again. "You're not too late to start a new chapter," he said quietly. "And I'd be honored if I could be in it, even just a few pages." I looked up at him, and for a moment I didn't see Sharon's son. I didn't see the age gap. I didn't see the rules I'd written in my head. I just saw Mark, a man standing in front of me, asking, respectfully, tenderly, to be allowed into my life in a way no one else had in years. I didn't answer with words. Instead, I lifted his hand to my cheek and leaned into it, closing my eyes, letting the warmth of it melt away years of doubt. He leaned forward then, not too close, just enough that I could feel his breath. "If I kissed you," he whispered, "would that be wrong?" I opened my eyes and met his. They were steady, honest. "No," I whispered, "but don't rush." He nodded. "Never." He didn't kiss me then. He didn't need to. Instead, he leaned his forehead gently against mine, and we stood like that for a long time, quiet, connected, like two people trying to figure out what the next moment would bring, but content just being here. Eventually, I pulled away just enough to see his face. "Do you want to stay for the night?" I asked. His eyes searched mine, not with lust, but with care. "Only if you want me to." "I want you here," I said, "not for anything more, just your presence. It's been a long time since I felt safe with someone. Then I'll stay." I brought him a blanket and a pillow, and he laid down on the couch while I disappeared into my bedroom to change. As I brushed my hair, I caught my own reflection in the mirror. For the first time in a long while, I didn't see someone aging or someone past her prime. I saw a woman who was still capable of stirring emotion, of mattering, of beginning something new. When I came back out, the lights were dim. Mark was lying on his side, facing the hallway, eyes still open. "Good night, Linda," he said softly. "Good night, Mark." And as I walked back into my room, I felt a quiet smile cross my lips. Because for once, I wasn't afraid of what tomorrow might bring. I was curious. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not out of habit or restlessness, but something else. A quiet energy in the house, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Sunlight streamed softly through the curtains, casting warm streaks across my bedroom floor. I sat up slowly, the silence of the morning wrapping around me like a shawl. I reached for my robe and walked barefoot down the hall. Mark was still on the couch, asleep. He looked so peaceful there, his arm draped over his chest, his face relaxed in a way I'd never noticed before. I stood quietly for a moment and just watched him. It was strange, really, to feel this sense of tenderness towards someone so unexpectedly present in my life. And yet there he was. My heart wasn't racing. There was no panic, just this quiet pull, an anchor in the form of a man I thought I'd never see like this. I tiptoed back to the kitchen and started making coffee. The scent must have reached him because minutes later I heard him stir. Then his voice, still raspy from sleep. "You're up early," he said, walking in and rubbing the back of his neck. "So are you," I replied, handing him a mug. "Smells good," he said, taking a sip. "Feels natural." We both leaned against the counter, side by side, not speaking for a while. The birds outside were singing, and the world felt calm, like the entire day had been designed just for us. "I kept thinking about last night," I said softly. He turned to me. "So did I. I wasn't expecting you to stay. I invited you, but I didn't know how I'd feel waking up." "And how do you feel?" he asked. I looked at him, his eyes patient, waiting. "I feel like I didn't dream it," I said. "And I feel at peace." A gentle smile spread across his face. That's all I could hope for. We sat outside on the back porch with our coffee. The breeze rustled through the trees, and the flowers in my garden swayed like they were listening. Mark talked about his job, his plans, and a little about his mother, though not too much. We both silently understood that this moment, whatever it was just ours. Eventually, he looked at me and said, "So where do we go from here?" It was the question I had been avoiding, even though I knew it was coming. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I don't want to pretend this didn't happen. I don't want to ignore how I feel, how you make me feel." "I'm not asking for anything that makes you uncomfortable," he said. "I just want to be someone you can be yourself with. Someone you can lean on, talk to, laugh with." "I want that too," I said, setting my coffee cup down. "But it's not simple. People will talk. Your mom ruled." "She doesn't own me, Linda," he interrupted gently. "And this isn't about her. It's about you and me." I nodded, biting my lip. "You deserve joy," he added, "even if it surprises you, even if it challenges the rules." That made me pause, because I had followed the rules for years. I raised my kids. I built my life. I made sacrifices. I did the right things. And yet, somewhere along the way, I stopped reaching for what made me feel alive. Mark wasn't chaos. He wasn't a fleeting distraction. He was simply a man who saw me, who reminded me that life doesn't stop offering connection or surprise or beauty just because you pass a certain age. Later that afternoon, he helped me trim some hedges in the garden. We joked. We teased. We shared lemonade under the sun like it was the most natural thing in the world. At one point, I caught him looking at me, his eyes gentle, affectionate. "What?" I asked, smiling. "Nothing," he said. "Just, I never thought I'd feel this calm standing next to someone who once made me nervous to speak. That made me laugh. I made you nervous." He grinned. "You still do." We both knew we weren't rushing into anything. We hadn't crossed any lines that couldn't be uncrossed. There had been no grand declarations, no wild decisions. Just two people, separated by years, but joined by something simple and honest. When it was time for him to leave, he stood at the door for a moment, hands in his pockets. "I'd like to see you again," he said. "You will," I replied. We hugged. It lingered, and when he pulled back, he looked into my eyes, not to push, not to plead, just to say one last thing. "I don't need you to decide anything today. Just don't shut the door on something good because it came dressed in something unexpected." I nodded, watching him walk to his car, my chest full in the strangest and most wonderful way. After he left, I sat on the couch where he'd slept the night before, and I held the necklace in my palm again. The amber stone caught the light, small, warm, steady. Just like this feeling. I didn't know what the next day would bring, or the one after that. But for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid to find out. And maybe, just maybe, that was the gift he brought me after all. Not the necklace, not the compliments, but the chance to feel alive again